You are listening to a Raptors podcast, the place every week for all things Raptors. Get ready and never underestimate the heart of a champion. Welcome back to a Raptors pod. I am your host, as always, Lucky Roberts, and I'm coming to you with a little bit of a lost voice. I a long hockey game, and then right after OUA Finals, actually, TMU facing Trois-Rivières. I hope I pronounced that right. Lost a bit of my voice, tried to nourish it back to health for this Raptors podcast. Game ended at about 9:30, got home for 10 to watch the entirety of this Trailblazers and Raptors game, which at first I didn't know is something I would enjoy doing because the Raptors were down pretty big after the first quarter. They were down 33-16, down 15 once again at halftime, and you can imagine, what's going to happen. And this is not a good Trailblazers team, but neither team really brought their A squad to this to this game. The Blazers are without Shaedon Sharpe, Jeremy Grant, just to name a couple of their top guys. They still had a semi-recognizable starting lineup. They had Chris Murray in there, who's not really, but Ayton, Simons, Kamara, not really. Delano Banton, who's been cooking for them as of recent. Really happy to see him doing well. He's also in there. And for the Raptors, it was a quickly Trent, Olynyk. I guess you can see those guys in the starting lineup. And then Akbaji and Grady Dick rounding it out. And, these two teams are really scraping the bottom of the barrel at this point in the season, which it makes complete sense. But this two teams, bottom of the barrel, still was one of the most entertaining games I've seen all year. And I think that's just a testament to how good the league is. I think it's a testament to how good basketball is. And you don't have to go, buy these super expensive tickets to go see Steph Curry play, to go see LeBron play. Basketball is fun no matter where you look, And I think that's just a great testament to it here. It was down the stretch, back and forth, Raptors clawing their way back into it by the end of the game. It's slowly taking points here, and then a big run in the fourth quarter to bring it back. And the Trailblazers fought hard, and their best players came to play. Ayton had 30 and 19 rebounds, really dominated the Raptors, who were struggling. Jonte Porter didn't play any minutes. It was Boucher and Olynyk as our center rotation today, and Boucher had a great game. Olynyk had a great game, but neither of them are big enough body to go up against a DeAndre Ayton, who's not even a premier big in this league. But DeAndre Ayton just that much bigger. He had 30, 19 rebounds, a block, 2 steals. Really great performance from him, and it shows you how far the Raptors really have to go. Other great performances, as I already said, Delano Banton, 5 for 8 from three-point range. That's really, really impressive, encouraging to see from him. Plus 18, the highest in the game altogether. He was really great today. 4 assists, 7 rebounds, and I think he can actually pave a way to being a rotation player in the NBA, which is something you wouldn't have been able to say about him coming in as, the 45th draft pick, 46th into the league, and the Raptors picked him basically, just take a shot on the guy, and it turned out, and you haven't seen too many of the Raptors' recent picks, late picks, turn out like that. You've seen guys in the past like Norm Powell, Siakam turned out. OG's a bit of a later pick. And you've seen guys turn around at that situation for the Raptors, but you haven't seen it as recent in the 2020s. And, you've seen it here with Banton on the Trailblazers. He's found a nice home. Although they're still stacked with guards, they still find a way to get him in the starting lineup over Scoot Henderson, over Matisse Thybulle, who they've, made, an importance to put those guys in positions to win. But Banton's forced their hand, and good for him. Really, really proud of him. Simon's obviously another one of those guards. He had a good one. Kamara, 15 points. Pretty surprising game from him. But, players are going to have those. On the Raptors side here in this one, was a really great game for the sort of duo of Emmanuel Quickley and Kelly Olynyk. They were able to really work well off of each other. Emmanuel quickly with 29 points, draining threes from basically wherever you wanted to. 5 for 7 on free throws, and Olynyk worked really well in tandem with him, even just off the roll, finding open cutters. Boucher a bunch of times. Olynyk did that, and it's something that Olynyk really strives with. And one of the reasons I'm more happy, more acceptable with this extension that we just gave him, about $14 million a year for the next 2 years, is because he fits Darko's system so well. But being 32 years old, going to be 34 by the end of it, obviously you don't see him for longer than those 2 years. And for the next 2 years, we're not going to be good. So what's the point in the first place? And I thought we were clearing all this cap with the Dinwiddie trade. I probably should call it the Schroeder trade, not the Dinwiddie trade, but whatever. We clear up all that cat space so we can sign a guy before we have to pay Scotty next offseason. And we use some of that cap space on Kelly Olynyk, who I know we made, the deal to bring him in. And we brought in Akbaji. I apologize for my throat. It's really it's getting rough after the game, but I'm powering through it. But we make that deal to get Olynyk, and I am aware, but it seems like we're adding to a roster when we shouldn't be adding, and we'll have to see, I guess. But he's nice to have here, and he is just that much better than Boucher. What he brings to the table, he's a better shooter. Um, I would say they're equal defenders. Maybe Olynyk's a little bit worse. Way better passer, way better shooter though, and a more solid than Boucher for sure defensively. Boucher, did get a block on the big center DeAndre Ayton today, so he's good in that way. But he's better on the perimeter, and neither of them can really guard Ayton, so it doesn't really matter. Um, I'll talk about Boucher later, but yeah, he and Quickly, great games. Also, Gary Trent threw in one of his better games of the year, 23 points. Obviously, he had a great game against the Suns as well. His probably best game of the year. And he's starting to come along now here. Uh, Towards the end of the season, finally, we're seeing some resemblance of what we've seen from Gary in the past. It took a while for us to get here. Um, but, you get 23 points out of Gary, you're happy at this point. You're going to be very happy. He threw in some rebounds, 2 assists, steals, what you like to see. But all these guys are playing huge minutes. I mean, 42 for Gary, 44 for Quickly, 39 for Grady Dick, who wasn't even in the rotation early on this year. Now he's playing 39 minutes for us, dropped 8 points, 2 for 7 from 3. This is probably your run-of-the-mill Grady performance. Had some good plays, some rough ones as well. But like I said, that's sort of going to happen here. Akbaji got the start, but sort of was subbed out for Boucher down the stretch. And Akbaji similarly was fine. He still has a ways to go, basically, with every part of his game. But he's not horrible. And you can see basically him and Noir are the exact same player, and they're pretty interchangeable with their minutes. And then off the bench, obviously Boucher, as I said, I was going to talk about just down the stretch. 14 points in the fourth was the reason the Raptors even forced an overtime in this one, and it was hustle play after hustle play. And I saw a tweet from Samson Folk that encapsulates exactly how I feel about watching that performance. And this is what made the game so entertaining as my computer goes off. But what made this game so entertaining was seeing the hustle from Chris Boucher on a team that is 23-41, playing a team that is 18-45, whom he has no connection to, and he still is playing it like it's his last game, and he's giving the Raptors everything he has. He gets the game-tying bucket after Grady Dick misses, after even earlier than that. There was a miss from Quickly. There was a miss. Basically, every single Raptor had a crack at it. Olynyk swatting it out to Grady Dick, who missed a pretty easy floater, but it's tipped back in for Boucher. Everything was going the Raptors' way down the stretch here, and Boucher tips it in and gets walloped on the ground, holding his knee tight to his chest. But he gave everything for this. And it's probably the reason, I think the reason he's still here, not because he's the best player, but he gives his all. And that's basically all you can ask for him. He's the quintessential Raptor at this point for them. Canadian born. Sure, he has some flaws, but he's figured out that in his game, and he's working as hard as he gosh darn can. And 3 blocks, 16 points, 8 rebounds, best performance of the season, and he still has more to give because he gives it all every single time he steps out there, and it was so impressive. Another surprise appearance, Jalen McDaniels getting onto the court. He had 4 points, 10 rebounds. 10 rebounds was the big bulk of his help today. We really needed it facing DeAndre Ayton. As a whole, Raptors got out-rebounded by 10, and 10 of the Raptors' rebounds was from Jalen McDaniels, who's listed as a power forward in this game, but he's no power forward. But he helped out good enough on the boards to keep the Raptors in it. Ultimately, the more talented Trailblazers team with more players playing good than the Raptors had were able to take it in overtime, flooded the Raptors. Raptors went down by 10 in overtime pretty quickly, never really got it back. It was Ayton, Simons had a couple threes, and that was it. Banton as well. But it was a great performance and the quintessential loss that you want to have a team that is tanking. So a lot of fans are going to take it, and I don't know many fans who wouldn't. Anyway, we move on to the next game we're going to be talking about here, Raptors versus Suns. This is another, you would say, pretty good performance from the Raptors all around. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, Gary Trent Jr. was really impressive in this one, and we've seen some sparks where he's been looking like the old Gary once again. But here today, or not today, against the Suns, he really had a coming out party, and it was a really impressive thing to see. 5 for 13 from 3, 11 for 22, and he's doing all the Gary things. He's stopping in the paint, waiting, fading, instead of taking an easy layup he had. He's shooting off the dribble on these elbow fades. Tough shots, but he was hitting them, and he hasn't been hitting them. But today he did. Just another crazy stat line from this game. Quickly with 18 assists, 9 rebounds, and 21 points. Pretty wild stuff from Emmanuel. Not really known as the triple-double, double-double, double 20 almost type of player, but he had it in this one, just dishing to every single guy, finding open shooters, and Gary Trent. RJ hit a couple of threes. Obviously, Grady Dick 4 for 10 today against the Suns. And he was running the offense as you would like to see from him. And to a pretty good Suns team, he took only 7 points as the Raptors lost. And they really took it to him. And it was Quickly who led the way and paved the way. You would say the third best player, RJ, didn't play against the Trailblazers. A little bit of an injury he's healing up from. You'll see him. He's not done for the year, is what I'll say. He had 23. Not really filling much else up in the stat sheet, but when Quickly's dishing it the way he is, you don't want to take the ball out of his hands. And RJ will spot up and he'll take you off the dribble and he'll finish with strength. And he did that against the Suns. And he was RJ. He was what you expect to see from him going on in the future if you expected to see a lot of growth from him. Grady Dick, Boucher actually had another good game in this one, almost a double-double, 11 and 9. And you can see him now getting more minutes and getting more trust from the Raptors coaching staff, which is something that he seems to always do, is he figures a way to earn the trust, and once he gets his opportunity, he does not waste it. And he's got his opportunity, and maybe he'll weasel his way into having another contract for next season. We'll have to see how it pans out for him. Grady Dick as well, like I said, 4 for 12, but 4 for 10 from three. So you'll take that, I guess. Nobody else really gave the Raptors anything. Freeman Liberty 18 minutes. Olynyk fouled out in 28. Just it was a pretty top heavy performance for the Raptors, and they still put up 113 and held the Suns to only 120. But man, was it a scorching hot day for Kevin Durant, who got to the free throw line at will, 35 points, 3 rebounds, um, 11 free throws made, 10, 11 field goals made. Um, Durant, a lot of middies, a lot of finishing at the rim, couple threes, a lot of free throws. Raptors were hacking them, but that's once again a thing. That's going to happen when you don't have any rim protection. When Boucher and Olynyk are your centers coming off the bench, and Durant's coming down, putting pressure on the rim. What can you do? What really can you do? And Nurkic with 14 rebounds, Royce O'Neal with 8. Raptors getting out rebounded by more than 10 in this one. And it's, the formula of players you've got here are really tough to win with. It's pretty reminiscent of the bubble, the year after the bubble, the Tampa season for the Raptors, where there's just not enough talent here. Nick Nurse tried to squeeze every little bit of juice out of that lemon, but it wasn't a lemonade anymore. It was fully squeezed, and there's nothing here. And Darko knows it, and the Raptors know it, and the Raptors fans know it because we're tanking, and everybody's accepted that fact. So Kevin Durant is going to go off for 35 against you. Grayson Allen is going to go off for 26. Bradley Beal for 20. Nurkic with 14 rebounds. It's going to happen. Bull's going to have a good performance because they're better than you. And keeping it to a 7-point game is all you can really ask your squad to really do. Next up, the third game we are going to be talking about is the absolute evisceration of the Raptors at the hands of the Pelicans. The Pelicans were a really solid team, and Trey Murphy III goes off for 34 points in this one, which is not something you usually see. Plus 44 in the box score in 29 minutes. Wow, was he efficient today. 10 threes, but other than him, it was group effort that the Pelicans just took over against the Raptors, and it's another thing you can point to and say this Raptors squad just does not have enough talent. Zion Williamson plays 26. Ingram plays 25. Herb Jones plays 25. Valanciunas only plays 20. And McCollum 23. These deep bench players are getting more minutes than the starters are. That's really showing the Raptors were never in this game, and they weren't even in it against the bench of the Pelicans. Jose Alvarado played 24 minutes. He was a plus 32. Najee Marshall plays 20 minutes, plus 25. Larry Nance Jr. These are run-of-the-mill NBA players who are absolutely crushing it against the Raptors, and you're not going to win every single game, but you also shouldn't lose every single one either. And then you look at the starting lineup. You got RJ, you got Quick, you got Trent, you got Akbaji, you got Olynyk. Off the bench, the entirety of it is your G League squad. DJ Cartone, who was on a 10-day. Grady Dick, who wasn't even in the rotation. Freeman Liberty, G League star. Jonte Porter, G League star. John Miss Ramsey, G League star. Jordan Nwora, sure, bottom of the barrel NBA player. And then Mamadou Gaye. Once again, G Leaguer. It's really tough to even compete in these games when most of your team is compiled of G League players who have been playing in the G League of recent, and none of them really stepped up. Freeman Liberty, I guess, had 13 points. Nwora was 4 for 15. Just really depressing stuff from the bench entirety. Everybody minus 30. Jesus. And the starters can't really say you've seen much better Obviously, they're more efficient. RJ, Trent quickly all around that 50%, hitting a couple threes, but they're not really giving you much else. Kelly Olynyk, 15. You would say he's the best player in this game almost. 7 assists, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. But once again, you have to look at rebounding, and the Raptors got out rebounded by 17. Valanciunas had 10, Zion had 8. Like I said, it was a very team effort, and they dominated just every aspect of the game. This was a very unfortunate game to watch, and I thought this Trailblazers game was going to be quite similar with obviously, Banton coming back to play against the Raptors and Gary Trent going back to Portland. But it wasn't. And we saw a better game and a better performance. And you can't quit. And that's what we saw against the Pelicans. And uh, you just don't want to see a lot of that. And looking even back to the game that was in February 5th, this was a game on March 5th. A month later, same result, 138-100 was the first one. The Raptors against the Pelicans in March, 139-98. They gave up both times. You can't have that. We saw a response these last 2 games, but you haven't seen a win. What you have seen a win against was the Charlotte Hornets, which is just the absolute bottom of the barrel. If you stick around for our around the league segments, you'll know the Hornets are trash and the Raptors are just a little bit better. If the Raptors are filled with a couple of NBAers, at least a starting lineup of NBAers, and then off the bench, like 2 NBAers and the rest are G League, the Hornets are 3 NBA players. Miller had a good game. Bridges had a good game. Mitchich, I guess, had a good game. Other than that, uh, Grant Williams, sure. The Raptors were able to beat the Hornets at least. At least we're not the Hornets. Rebound wise, we're pretty much the same. Grant Williams, Brandon Miller, both 8. Bridges as well, actually 8 rebound wise. But this game we had Podol, so it's sort of a different argument you have here. Podol only played 50 minutes, but you have him there. And you have Jonte Porter playing some minutes. Kelly Olynyk coming off of the bench. So you have a more depth to you, and you're still scraping by against the Hornets. So it's tough. It was good to see you win, and you're gonna take that. There's not gonna be much more wins in this season, I think, looking out ahead at the schedule. But you look and you can say, at least we're not the Hornets. And it was a good performance from RJ. Gary Trent, 17. This was sort of him showing what he is capable of before he really is broken out over the last couple games. He's basically just been given the keys because what else are you going to do at this point? Akbaji, 13 points, probably honestly the best game of his Raptors career, and it was not a good game anyway. 13 and 9 rebounds, plus 14, 6 for 20 though, shooting wise. Not exactly what you want to see. Gary Trent, however, RJ Barrett, quickly, those are your guys you're going to be watching for years to come for this Raptors team. Trent maybe withstanding, but we'll have to see how it goes. Jordan Nwora coming off the bench, solid, better than what Akbaji was able to provide. And it was just enough. Grady Dick as well, just enough to beat the Hornets, give the Raptors at least one win this week, and not entirely go without one. So that's going to do it for the Raptors coverage for this week. The upcoming schedule for the Raptors here. Season's almost coming to an end, but next week we do have Denver, Detroit, and Orlando. Then I'm going to have a in between the Friday and Sunday game against Orlando. Going to have a pod. Then the next game against Orlando, and so on. Obviously, Detroit could be a win there. Denver, Orlando, not so much. We still play Washington and Brooklyn. Other than that, every other team we play is pretty good. So it's wait and see with this upcoming season. My throat is killing me. Oh my god. But yeah, that's gonna do it. We'll see you after those next three games next week, and yeah, we keep trekking on as the season continues, comes almost near to its end. Anyway, that's gonna do it for the Raptors section. Now I'm gonna look around the league and do a quick recap of that, and I'll have you guys on your way. So yeah. And looking around now, I am back here at the Eastern Conference, and surprise, surprise, it's pretty chalk to what it has been for the last couple of weeks. The Celtics stand alone at the top, 8 games behind is the Cavs and the Bucks. Then you see the rest, Cavs and Bucks. The Cavs really surprising coming on really in the second half of the season. 5-5 in the last 10, however, slowed down a little bit, but the rest of this Eastern Conference is so streaky and mediocre that it's enough for second in the East. Surprisingly, the Bucks haven't really been able to figure anything out with Doc. Not done anything better than what they had with Adrian Griffin. Not to my surprise. I think that's when you're gonna switch out for Doc Rivers, who's not the most acclaimed head coach. Um, Halfway through the season, not giving him enough really of a run ahead. That's what's gonna happen. And that's where they lie. The New York Knicks right behind them. The Magic both gone on runs this season. Then the Heat in sixth. Philadelphia fallen into seventh spot they wouldn't really think they would be in. Nick Nurse struggling as of recent without obviously his star, so you can't entirely blame him. 3-7 in their last 10. They're a very star focused team, and they are struggling without it. Pacers in eighth. Bulls almost find themselves back at 500 for the first time in however long. Pretty inspiring stuff, I guess you can say, if you can even say those things about a 9 seed. But they find themselves in ninth. Behind them is the Hawks. Behind them is Brooklyn. Behind them is the Raptors. All teams probably not really happy with where they're at. And teams who are even more unhappy with where they're at, the Wizards, the Hornets, and the Pistons, all bottom barrel of the East. Into the Western Conference, the crowded top of the Western Conference, who are all dominant, not really streaky. The Thunder, the Timberwolves, the Nuggets. Clippers have fallen back from those top three, but still ahead of the next couple teams. Clippers, a little bit of a wild card. I do like their chances this season. I've just got a good gut feeling. Their squad, when you look at it on paper compared to the Nuggets, Timberwolves, and Thunder, they can hold up. So I expect to see them at least in these series that they haven't really been in the last couple of seasons, despite how good their roster seems to be constructed. But the Thunder, Timberwolves, Nuggets, that's the cream of the crop. That's who you got to take down. And they're all led by some really transcendent young players, some young guards, and it's going to be just a blast to see how it all plays out here in the playoffs coming up next month, basically. The Pelicans and Kings follow them up. Suns, Mavericks as well, all in the same sort of range, 2 games behind of each other. And this is where you sort of reach the streakiness of the Western Conference. The Pelicans did demolish Raptors both times, and the Kings have done so as well against the Raptors. But it's the streakiness, and they're able to beat the bad teams, but maybe not the good teams, and that's why they are where they are. The Suns and Mavericks, like I said, they're with them. Warriors, Lakers, after both teams going on a big tear in the second half, they've slowed down a little bit. 6-4 for both of them in their last 10, and they find themselves slightly above 500, but not really in any threatening position. The Western Conference is stacked as it has always been, and yeah, it's like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun. And then the losers in the Western Conference, the Rockets, not too bad. The Jazz, not too bad, just not good. They'd be probably in the fight in the Eastern Conference, not in the Western. Grizzlies, Trailblazers, Spurs, not in the race by any stretch of the imagination, never were. And that's going to do it for our Raptors podcast today. Thank you all always for listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was a tough day. Had to fight through some throat issues, but it's done. And thank you guys for listening as always. I enjoy doing this so much. I will follow me on Twitter if you want to. Do what you got to do. But that's gonna be it for me. Thanks for listening, and as always, thank you.